What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction, back with some more J-drama score, and we're returning to the soundtrack for the 2015 show Ouroboros, which I've begun going through in watch-along on my Patreon, and I hope to do another episode in this same batch, so by the time this audio reaction is up, I'm hoping to have the next installment in the watch-along on Patreon up as well. In any case, we're going to listen to a tune, another one by the series composer Kimura Hideakira, which is The Guy with the Gold Watch. And if you've seen either of the first two episodes that I've already done in watch-along form, then you'll be aware that there is this powerful and very secretive organization with people from the top echelons of the world of business, law enforcement, and other public officials who use their influence and offices, political and otherwise, to benefit themselves and to perhaps cover up crimes or malfeasance on the part of members, or perhaps those who are in association with this group. And they are known as the Kintoke Gumi, which is to say the Gold Watch clan. And yes, ultimately they may not be Yakuza outright, because again, they are actually government officials and police officials, and we get word, at least by someone who was forced to give information to the protagonist, that the current leader of the Kintoke Gumi may be a police officer, or at least an administrator within the Metropolitan Police of Japan. And yes, ultimately we get a sense that they are related to the MacGuffin of the series, which is to say it's a show that mixes some different genres: detective, cold case, suspense, and high personal drama. But there's a crime that was committed 20 years ago at an orphanage where a teacher, the woman who ran the orphanage, was killed in the middle of the night. And two of her favorite students and the two protagonists sort of witnessed it, one more than the other, but they've now devoted their entire lives to figuring out what happened and to getting revenge or justice for their slain sensei. And one grew up to be in the police, one grew up to be in the underworld of Yakuza, but as we find out, certainly by the end of the second episode, if not the first, is that they're both essentially pursuing those different lines of occupation, mostly to use those resources and connections to get at the truth of this case that happened 20 years ago. And they discover that whatever happened may have been related to this Gold Watch clan crew. So yes, the track is called The Guy with the Gold Watch, and speaks to this, again, ultra-secretive and powerful unofficial organization of influential individuals at the top of Japanese society who may be up to no good and who may be covering up grave offenses from the past. So let's give it a listen. This is The Guy with the Gold Watch from the soundtrack for Ouroboros by Kimura Hideakira, and it's from 2015. haunting, mysterious, very suspenseful indeed. I think you can get a sense of the intrigue, maybe the danger, and certainly the suspense, the anticipation that something may reveal itself and it might not be entirely safe in the track. So good conceptual composition. I do enjoy the different ingredients. We have bowed string instruments, which do get a bit intense at the very end there, as well as pizzicato strings, I think. There's maybe a xylophone, maybe it's like struck chimes, but definitely a struck melodic / percussive element. Also a synth bass, very electric and wicked. That's more notable in the latter stages of the track. And ultimately a keyboard element. I think there's a couple keyboard elements maybe, but there was one that was very electronic, almost computer-like, that I didn't remember going into this. So yeah, again, I think it expresses the mystery, the uncertainty, and the danger of not only the show overall, but specifically this idea of this group, the Kintoke Gumi, who our protagonists learn about pretty early on, and they don't know their identities. And obviously, if you're trying to investigate a crime that's been deliberately buried by very powerful people, including very powerful people in law enforcement, then you have to be careful, because you're walking in a spider web, and if you pull on one of the threads, it might alert people within this group who have power well above that of either the protagonist, even if the main two characters are rising and successful in their respective worlds, and no one knows officially that they have any contact with each other, so they're careful the way they meet, and they sort of go to places where they're not even looking at each other, but they're talking, so that no one understands their connection, but they are in fact feeding information to each other, such that the Yakuza member, he's aware when a police raid might happen, or he gets information that comes from within the police, and the police officer is able to make arrests and learn about criminal operations that no other detective can figure out, but that makes some of the other detectives suspicious about him and what he may be involved in. So everything is perilously balanced. Everything is building toward them trying to uncover what happened 20 years ago, with their goal of getting justice and revenge for that, but facing some faceless, nefarious figures who may try to take them out if they feel threatened by people trying to dig up what has been deliberately buried. So again, I think that track is short. I want to say like 2.5 minutes. Yeah, just about exactly 2.5 minutes. It conveys a lot of that narrative context and atmosphere in its sonic composition. So shout out once again to Kimura Hideakira, and ultimately all those who've been watching the J-Drama watch-alongs. And again, thank you, of course, to Michaela and Dawn, who've been taking part in them very directly, as well as to Kim and Izzy and Mr. Solo and others who've at least, chimed in on or liked videos of some of the shows and or episodes that I've been going through. But I will put a link to the Ouroboros watch-along on Patreon here in the video description, so anyone who has not seen the first couple episodes and would like to jump aboard in real time, I encourage you to do that. Let me know what you think, and I will see you next time. Peace.